There we go. Okay, good morning. Ah, man.
Hi.
Hi. Yes, your audio is fine too. It's wow, just a collection of things going on this morning. So I apologize for being a little late.
If it makes you feel any better, I was looking at old Non Sequitur Show episodes, and this opening with that slight little hiccup at the beginning, way better than like half the ones I was clicking through. I just did not. I never realized how many like opening audio and like just opening problems Non Sequitur actually had.
Always,
And it's a lot.
It's kind of common. Any YouTuber that streams using OBS, OBS does weird things. I don't know what it is, but sometimes just out of nowhere, it'll change things like you have a default setting, and then you have like you can set it for like your speakers, and then it'll do this, and it'll move back and forth. And I noticed every time there's a Windows update, and guess what I had last night? I updated my Windows.
Windows update.
And so every time I update my Windows, things change on settings across the board, especially in OBS and other things. I don't know if they're related. It's coincidental. I don't know if it's one of those, correlation doesn't imply causation things. I don't know, or doesn't imply causation. Who the hell knows? But it's weird. But just to let people know, we have an appraiser over today. So during the middle of the stream, I'm probably going to have somebody walking around here praising, but I'll mute. But what are you going to do? But I made my coffee. I need my coffee this morning. I just had tossy-turny.
Yeah, me too. It's been been a week. I don't know. I've had kind of a week. I was glad I got to go visit some family this weekend. So I've been a little bit away. I've been like not entirely AFK, but I wasn't checking like most of like DMs and stuff, but I was still like tertiarily looking at Twitter. So
no, I get that, I have been very active as either. And matter of fact, though, because I haven't been very active, I even messaged you. Like on Sunday, I had no messages hardly. I mean, nothing. I'm just not used to waking up and just not having to respond to something. It's very rare. So I was actually grateful for that. I was like, no emails, no nothing.
The edge.
Yeah.
The edge is real. I brought something funny for us to read at the very beginning before we get into like the more serious absurd. So we can start with something a little bit funny because I saw this just before we went live, and I'm like, I want to share this. This has been amazing. I was off-roading in my little Fisher Price car.
I saw that. I did see that.
Driving around.
I have it up.
It was my I guess second cousins. So my cousins came to visit and they brought their kids along, and it was like a whole little family get together. It was all COVID safe, everything's. We made sure that there was like not too many people that within the restrictions that are allowed. But the kids were there, and the kids and Puck, oh, it's so adorable. He's like, they wanted to throw the ball for him, but because they're all like young kids with lots of energy, he was running away from them, and they were chasing him, trying to tackle him, and he was just like, "You'll never catch me!" And the kids were like, "We're gonna catch you!" So like the dog's like as big as all these children, and it was so cute. It was just cute forever.
Is that why you wanted to do the AITA for naming my dog Brad?
Also, that was hilarious. Am I the asshole for naming my dog Brad?
I have it up on the screen.
Okay, so I've always thought it's funny when dogs have human names. Much more amusing to me than giving them obvious names like Spike or Jellybean or whatever. Never had an issue with Brad's name being what it was until recently. My sister got a new boyfriend, and I'm sure this just gets better as you go. And I'm sure you can see where this is going. I don't think I even have to say his name. Well, my sister came over the other day with him, and we met for the first time. Everything was all fine and good until he asked what my dog's name was. I laughed a little and said that his name was also Brad. He looked at me for a second and asked if I was joking or not. I told him no, his name is actually Brad. After that, the whole mood flipped, and the remainder of the visit was just an uncomfortable vibe. A while after they left, my sister called me and started berating me for disrespecting her boyfriend. Honestly, this seems like such a Brad thing for him to do. And I don't think I did anything wrong here, but maybe I'm wrong? Should I have lied about Brad's name so I didn't risk hurting his feelings? Edit, here's a picture posted in the comments, but I figured I should put it here instead. Default Brad. Edit 2. Oh, my sister saw the post and so did Brad number 2. They have been bickering and apparently split up. Brad number 1 and I don't want any part of this nonsense, so don't call me till you figure it out, Sarah.
That's Brad on the screen. So okay, so I just don't even understand how this is even a question. She named her dog. Whether you agree with her how she named her dog or not, it's irrelevant. That was her dog's name. That's it. I mean, I don't know what Brad or Sarah gave a shit. It's like,
I love everything about this story. It's just stupid.
It's so dumb. I mean, there's just nothing to be outraged about. I'd be like, oh, you named your dog Steve. Awesome. It's a cool name. I was named it first, though.
I can't. I know too many Steves. I could never name a pet Steve. There's too many Steves in my life.
Well,
same with Scott. I couldn't do Scott either. There's too many Scotts in my life.
I could be a boyfriend, not your boyfriend, but I could be a boyfriend and a pet named Steve, just somebody, I guess. I don't know. I think that works in the BDSM thing.
I like how you wanted to specify not me, okay?
well, you just said you wouldn't name a pet Steve. You know, if we did BDSM, I'd have some other weird.
But I might name a Steve pet.
Ah, there you go. I mean, I just, like I said, I think this is one of the dumbest AITAs that I've seen. I don't even know how it's even an issue which she'd even think that she's an asshole. That was the name of her pet. I mean, no, she shouldn't have lied. Why? I think it was funny. I think the boyfriend's an idiot, and his girlfriend is probably a dumbass for dating him.
This seems like such a Brad thing to do.
Yeah, I like that part. That part actually made it. That seemed like a Brad thing to do.
I imagine like her dog also has that same kind of sass sometimes, and that's why she calls him Brad. And she's like, my dog would be so snooty about this.
Look at that dog. What is it? Maybe a box terrier or something?
I love default Brad. Everything about default Brad makes me happy. Look at that dog. He's just like.
And the fact that they kind of split, and this was causing a wedge between everybody, it just shows that couple was not a very mature couple.
Well, yeah, I don't think there's anything about the ages. These people could be like 16 or 17 for all we know. This is why, whatever, who cares? It's just funny.
Ages, but maturity level, right?
Yeah.
And no, Claire, we're not stealing your AITA things, by the way.
Why
Claire.
would you get mad about somebody who had a dog a long time before? Did like the sister not tell the boyfriend? Who even cares? I would have been calling him Brad 2 also. Dog was here first. You're Brad 2.
And one of their sisters said, yeah, that's actually the dog's name, and everybody would be like, oh, okay. I mean,
the only reason I could understand Brad 2 being irritated about Brad 1 is if like the sister told him that she was just messing with him, like if he thought that OP was like messing with him on purpose and the dog's name isn't actually Brad.
Sure, yeah.
But like other than that, this is just kind of absurd. It's just funny. It's just such a Brad thing to do. I also liked, well, apparently my sister saw the post and so did Brad too, and they've been bickering and apparently split up. Brad number 1 and I don't want any part of that nonsense, so don't call me till you figure it out, Sarah.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty good response.
She's reading that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good response, and I mean, she knows that her sister's reading it, so I would have left something just as snarky as that, probably.
Oh, that's so fun. I like OP. OP's funny. OP's got a sense of humor, and Brad needs to get himself.
Brad, right?
Brad number 2 needs a sense of humor. Yeah, the human Brad was not mature enough. Yep,
that's what I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to a more serious note kind of stuff.
Everybody knows if you're hanging around me that Puck takes priority.
So people have known that I was never a big fan of Texas until, I was in Texas not a couple times actually in the last couple of years. And each time I've gone back, I gotta admit, I've enjoyed myself. I like.
It's growing on you.
It's growing. I mean, the people were really nice. The food was great. The drinks were cold and alcoholic. I just had a fun time. Every time I've been to Texas, it was the last time I went to Texas. They gave me a nice upgrade for my hotel. It was. I just enjoyed it. And so it was growing on me, right? But then Texas has done some pretty stupid stuff, or at least some of the people in Texas, right? The Texians, I guess you call them. And I'm not trying to say, look, individuals have done stupid things, therefore the whole state's bad. I'm not trying to do that. I still like the state. And I didn't think I was ever going to, because for some reason I just never had an affinity towards Texas. But so there's two things.
Texas has a reputation. Put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not a cowboy, right? I'm not into country western kind of stuff.
And the ACA hates you.
And the ACA hates me. That's a big thing, right? I mean, that's down in Austin, though. So I don't know if that's considered to be a completely separate.
Texas.
Yeah, but it's unlike Dallas. I've never been to Austin. I've been to Dallas, and from what I understand, I'm not a Texan. From what I understand, though, Austin and Dallas are very, very different types of atmospheres. So,
oh, fair enough. Yeah.
it's kind of like I'm from Southern California, but if you go to Northern California, it's not the same state.
Gotcha. Most of the provinces in Canada are actually quite large, so you're going to end up with like different vibes in different cities, but also like if you go, so I'm from Southern Ontario, but as you travel north in Ontario, you start going back in time. It's actually fascinating.
Well, yeah, I mean, a person from Quebec is not going to be a same kind of Canadians from Vancouver, right?
Well, especially if you're gonna single out Quebec like that, like they have a whole different culture.
Right, Quebec has a whole different culture. Well, San Francisco, a whole different culture from.
But if you were to take like Saskatchewan, Alberta, and Manitoba, and you were to take somebody, even if you were to take like, there's going to be differences between those, but there's also going to be a lot of more similarities between those three than there might be in Ontario comparatively to Saskatchewan. But which also interesting is if you take those three and then you also compare them to like Newfoundland, Labrador, PEI, and Nova Scotia, it's like they're going to have like a lot more in common than the people in Southern Ontario who are very like a little bit more almost Americanized.
Yeah, Ontario,
particularly Southern Ontario.
I mean, how far is Ontario from Detroit? Is what, 5 seconds? You could jump there pretty much.
It's over the river.
Yeah, so I mean, it's
just across the river is Ontario from
that's
Detroit.
Extremely Americanized.
Yeah, it's a city called Windsor that's right there, and I saw somebody make that for that gun argument to be like, well, gun regulations or build a wall, and it's just like the guns. How many people get shot and how many crimes are there committed with guns in Detroit versus Windsor, and what's separating them? A river. And laws.
And laws, right? I mean, and you don't see a bunch of Canadians trying to sneak into America for some reason. It's probably the other way around.
I'm surprised that America hasn't just been like, can you take Detroit? Please.
We can annex it for you.
Can you have that?
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing Texas tried to do. Remember when Texas tried to annex from the rest? They're like, they're going to annex. They're going to succeed from the union kind of thing in the States. Like,
I'm kind of expecting them to do it again over this, but we'll get there. Let's get the super chat and then. Super chat.
Explanatory Minds Project 5 pounds. Dog Brad is like LMAO. Human, I get petted and love it. Just play along, loser. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a crappy boyfriend, you know. But yeah, but Sari doesn't sound like she's a winner, anyways, right? I mean,
please get a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Please, for the love of God, don't take yourself so seriously.
Look, with all
your
the crap,
name is not exclusive.
With all the crap going on in the world, and you want to make a big kerfluffle over a freaking dog's name, you got bigger issues, man. You got bigger issues. Kafai says, I think that's right.
Bitch ain't one.
and that ain't one of them. We love Stephen Crane, San Antonio. Thank you, San Antonio.
Ears.
I've been to San Antonio. Yeah, that's where the fort is. Isn't that because I've been to the fort there.
Please tell me you're not asking me.
You're Canadian. You wouldn't know. Yeah. Yeah. Remember the
I already wasn't very good at geography.
No, the fort for the Last Stand. What was it? What the hell is it called? I'm a lousy Texan. The Alamo. Yeah, the Alamo.
Did you seriously just never forget the Alamo? Is that what just happened?
Never forget the Alamo. Isn't it supposed to be?
Oh my God!
Isn't Pearl Harbor? No, I know about Pearl Harbor. That's December 7th, 1941. That's Hawaii, but you know, that's a day I'll live in infamy. But never forget the Alamo. Yeah, I forgot the Alamo.
The Canadian was like,
I know it's the Alamo, okay?
All right.
I'm seriously still nursing my first coffee, okay? Give me a break.
So Texas needs to stop doing Texas things. And I'm convinced that it's not like the majority of people who live in Texas. I think it's just a select few of obnoxious leaders that they have. Because Texas was like really close to flipping this past election.
Yeah, no, closer than I had expected. I was actually like during the election going, hey, Texas, you know, might actually flip. That's because they used to be really always, way to the right. Now they're a lot more central. But so there's two main things that we want to talk about the Texas. I want to do the mask thing first, Josh. The talking about the mask.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
So there was so I'm sure everybody knows this story. Basically, there was a couple that had a immunocompromised son, and they went to a restaurant. And the owner of the restaurant sent the waitress over to go let them know that they weren't welcome there because the owner or the manager had a policy of no mask, which, by the way, they are allowed to do. Unfortunately, they are allowed to do it, so it's not that kind of issue. It's stupid, but the parents wore a mask because their child is immunocompromised, right? And they were protecting their kid.
They didn't take the child out, by the way, from my understanding. That they didn't take the child
I
out.
don't think they have the child with them. But still, if they get something and they pass it on to their child, then the child is affected by it. So I mean, you have a right to wear a mask. I mean, even if you were not, even if it wasn't a pandemic and you just felt sick, people in China all the time, they've been wearing masks for a very long time. Or in a lot of the Asian countries, you get sick, it's almost like a social thing. You have to wear a mask, right? Nobody thinks twice about it.
There's a lot of like social expectations that are just different overseas. Mm-hmm. And one of them has to do with like, when you're in public space, respect that you're not the only one in the public space. So don't be spreading your germs everywhere. That's why it's like, don't eat on the subway is like a thing.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
My Furnished Journey. Hey, my friend. He says $2 for $2. Hi, gang. Hi, buddy. Yeah, Japan, not China. Okay, yeah, Japan. Well, I think in China too, isn't it? I mean, I know in Japan it's much more prevalent, but I think in China, any of the Asian I want to say companies, Asian countries.
I don't know, because like Asia covers a huge amount of space.
Hong Kong, I've seen people with masks in Hong Kong. That's China. Okay, well, now when I was there, it wasn't, but it is now.
Okay, well, point being, it's worked for other places, and it's not even uncommon, and it was a thing that existed before the pandemic.
Correct. And so his quote was, he says, "I spent my money on my business, my blood, sweat, and tears in this business. I don't want a mask in here," said the owner. Okay, look, this is my position on this.
Why are you so sensitive about what other people wear on their face?
I know. I don't get and understand his mentality. Is he as an owner? Can you do that as a dress code? You can set your own dress code as a private business. Okay, you can. But here's my take on it. If he wants to have that policy, no mask, then I think the pushback is from society, right? I mean, the people that I would think if they wanted to like show, hey, look, we're going to wear a mask. We're just not going to eat there. That's the pushback. Yeah, it's a basic
but
economics.
At the same time, if you notice inside you can't expect economics and capitalism to solve all your problems, Mr. American. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, you notice in the story, there's a detail in there that says they didn't advertise that they were no masks.
Yeah, and that's a bit of an issue. I mean, even though there's no I think legality-wise, there's no issue. I mean, the owner is in the right. Yeah. However, he inconvenienced the patrons, right? The people that went there to go eat, they had an expectation to go eat and get served, and there was no sign saying no mask, from what I understand. Now, would it make a difference if there was? Yeah, it's to some degree, because you know what you're getting yourself into. If you see a sign that says, "Hey, look, no mask," you say, "Look, I'm not going to eat at that place," right?
Yeah.
But maybe they didn't want to advertise it because people would be like, "Oh, exactly, what it should be, right?" It is. You're the consumer, right? Look, there's not the only one restaurant in town, right? And so, what happens when you have competition, fair competition? The consumer decides where they want to go eat, right?
Yeah, well, and if you read, they're basically like social pressuring people to take their masks off if they were wearing them, like the way the waitress came over to read the whole article. And there's like...
Well, she said it was political.
There's a few things about it. Yeah, well, yeah, the waitress said it was political.
The waitress said it was political,
And it's just like... And was like putting social pressure by coming in and sitting beside them and being like, I'm already getting in your personal space. Yeah. And also, we're going to need you to take it off here. We're not like the owner's meaner than I am. That's so I'm putting over because I'm da. And it's like, okay, listen, they've already sat down for their meal. Mm-hmm. and they're probably already ordered drinks at this point because drinks is usually pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're pressuring them because they already have an open tab with you. After that, if you're gonna do this shit, put a sign up that says.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you usually most restaurants will have a person who seats somebody, and at that point, the
hostess,
host or the hostess, and so they'll let people know. But again, it's very rare. You don't see a lot of businesses probably having this stupid policy because it is a dumb policy. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
listen, if he wants to have a dumb policy, he can have a dumb policy, but don't be a dick to people. And he was being a dick to people.
There's one place that probably more than one, but I know at least one that you can't wear a tie. If you go in wearing a tie, they'll tell you we're going to cut your tie off, and they put it on the wall. And they have
there's places that you have to wear a tie.
Oh, you have to wear a tie, right? And they're allowed to do that because they're letting you know ahead of time that this is their standard and this is their dress code. You have to wear a jacket or whatever. They're private businesses. They can run it any way they freaking want. It's not, as long as they don't discriminate for a intrinsic property or quality, like your age, your religion. Well, that's not intrinsic, but it's still one of the something protected. But your color, your sexuality, those things they cannot discriminate against because those are federally protected classes. And so, and I guess religion is something, I don't know, it's not intrinsic because you can change it, but it's still protected. But here's the thing.
Maybe it shouldn't be, but as of right now, it is. Like, maybe it should be under its own heading somewhere else, but...
It's one of those things that, look, I don't think people should be discriminated because of their beliefs, but...
It's not like your skin color.
You can't change your skin color.
It is what it is, yeah.
Those things need some kind of federal protection because, look, I mean, if a business owner said, look, I don't want to serve you because you happen to be of this ethnicity, of this skin color, they're just breaking the law to no end. They need to be sued into oblivion, right? So, and that has happened, by the way. Those things absolutely still happen, even after the Jim Crow's law. People, I'm sure it still happens. I remember reading one story, and this is kind of unrelated to Texas, but there was this African-American guy that had just won a lawsuit. I don't remember what the hell it was for. He just won a discrimination lawsuit. And he got this really high check, and he went to the bank to go cash the check. And they didn't believe the check was real. They discriminated him against, and he sued for the second time and won. It's like, oh my God, the guy's poor luck. I mean, in the long run, I guess his luck was pretty good, but it's still sad that he got discriminated against twice.
That's ridiculous, like in a row like
right.
that.
And he made out well for it, okay? So it's hard to really feel for the guy, except that, anybody who's being discriminated against should be felt bad for, but holy shit. It's like, man, do we still live in that kind of society where people are that stupid? Yes. Mine finished for $95. The thinking may be, quote, robbers wear masks, which would make more sense in retail stores and restaurants. Yeah, but even with all this mask stuff,
okay, listen,
crime
J.
didn't go up
Jonah
with that. Yeah.
Listen, J. Jonah Jameson, calm down. Spider-Man saved the world. All right, it's okay. He wore a mask. It's fine.
Now, let me ask you, Chess. Do you think that after this article came out and after that, this owner has been
the blowback? Yeah,
there's been a lot of blowback, and I completely understand that it is pushed by political reasons. There's this is a politically charged topic, and it shouldn't be. It should be for safety. It should be for considerations of their child, which was immunocompromised. It shouldn't be even politicized. Why is mask a political freaking thing? I don't understand this.
Because of the divisiveness of American politics, politicizing everything. You had like 2 school shootings a month, every month for like a year and a half. And it was still like, oh, we can't talk about guns because politics. And it's like, what are you doing? But now they're all over talking about schools and mask mandates. It's like, oh, now you care about like the kids aren't going to be heard. Oh, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're exactly right on that. I completely agree. And again, I have my own issue with the school system because I know for a fact that many of the people that run the school systems have never worked in a school system and they've never worked at the educational level as a teacher. They're bureaucrats. My sister was a master's degree in education. She was working on her PhD, but she never finished it. But all her life, she had to deal with that kind of bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there's some problems in lots of different educational systems, but that's a different conversation for another day.
They said he said he was unaware of her immune-compromised son, but that is a rule they believe strongly in and will continue to enforce. So even if he knew that their child was immunocompromised. He put
This is
politics
the way
over
to
safety.
double down.
Yeah, what a way to double down, right? Yeah, exactly. What a way to double down. It's like, hey,
he
we don't
would
care about your kid.
Maybe this guy would care more if the kid wasn't born yet.
Oh well, that's a good. Was that a willful, purposeful segue into our next thing? That was good. That was good.
Right?
Cheshire's getting good at this shit, man.
I'm practicing. I sit in front of the mirror, stare at myself, and
You know what?
segues.
Segue away, man. Yeah, take it and run with it, because this is something that you had recently talked about on your channel with a group of
No,
women.
not mine. We talked about it over. Me and Karma and Claire were over on Claire's channel talking about this.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Who's
we'll
my
end up on my
moderator?
channel at some point.
Claire Bear.
Oh, whom we love.
You know, I gotta tell you something real quick. Claire Bay gets around.
Oh yeah, she does.
She gets around. I was.
She's better than I am.
I was I saw something come up. I went over to another live chat, Mysterious, who I've watched some of her stuff, and guess who's a mod over there too? I thought I was exclusive. I thought Claire was just mod for me, but no, she gets around. She mods herself out anywhere she goes. It's I'm not mod shaming. Okay, not mod shaming.
Listen, she's good at what she does.
But she gets around, so yes.
Yeah. Respect.
Props.
Okay, so Texas. Oh, Texas. I've been following for a little while Texas trying to overturn things like Roe v. Wade when it comes to abortion rights. And they've been going after this forever since it was decided by the Supreme Court. They've been trying to find a way to get around it, and they finally did. That they succeeded, and so they presented this law that essentially is: listen, we're not. This is not constitutional because we're not going after anybody who is getting an abortion. We're going to make it incredibly difficult for anybody to assist or provide abortion. So doctors, Uber drivers, your mom.
I gotta tell you, it's a loophole of all loopholes. I mean, it really is. I mean, obviously I'm against it, but I gotta say was creative. It's creative politics.
It is very clever, and it should be applauded for its conniving, like what's the word? It's very cunning, and
Yes.
it is very it does a really good job navigating, and it's awful. It's awful. But what they did was basically you can sue as a third party, completely unrelated, anyone who assists in an abortion for someone from Texas, provided that the abortion was after 6 weeks. If you win, you are guaranteed $10,000 and lawyers' fees, and if you successfully defend, you get nothing.
So this was a House bill in Texas, right? They call it the Heartbeat Act, right? Which I think is completely not apropos in any way, shape, or form.
It's not even close to. It's not even talking about a heartbeat because they're just trying to pull on heartstrings.
It's an appeal to emotion. I mean, it's completely emotionally based.
It's inaccurate.
Very
I wouldn't
inaccurate.
mind if it was an appeal to. I wouldn't mind if it was an appeal to emotion. If it was actually a heartbeart that they were addressing.
Called it
not
the Texas Embryo Act, or something, But I don't forget what the 6 weeks is called. I think it's an embryo, but they do. If you look at the embryology, because I don't know much about embryology, but you have like the zygote, and then you have the blast. The blast something, or then you have. So there's different steps in the development, right? Was it a blast something or the blasphemous? I don't know.
Blasphemous?
What's it called? A blast?
You heard it here.
Oh my God! I haven't looked at this stuff.
Babies are blasphemous. Steve, you don't have enough coffee yet.
I do not. I don't know. I need a biologist in the live chat. So it was signed into effect into law back in May, right? But it took effect this month, in September 1st, right? So people are making a big stink about it because it came to effect literally this month, and so
This passed. This isn't like something being proposed. This is passed.
Yeah,
this exists now. This is something
law.
we have to deal with.
This is now officially law in Texas, which blows my mind, and they'll deal with it. But here's the thing. I don't understand how it's third party, because that is like, so wait a minute. If let's say that you had an abortion after 6 weeks and I decided to make some money off of it, and we'll get into the whole tips line, that webpage thing in a few, but let's say that I sue and I have like 50 other people sue because they know about it. How do you have third parties that are unrelated suing for something individually?
It's not even that.
How does that work?
It's that, but it's also people that you can, it reaches outside of Texas, provided that the person who got the abortion is from Texas. So you could go to Nebraska as a pregnant person. The doctor there could perform the abortion for you, because you can't find anywhere to do it for you in Texas because nobody wants to get sued. Mm-hmm. You go back to Texas and somebody in Nebraska is like, she was definitely after six weeks. Beep, 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 beep. Yeah, hey, I'm going to sue this doctor from Nebraska as somebody in Nebraska.
How does that work, though? I mean, I don't understand how third parties can sue when they have no relationship to they're not the injured party.
Because the injured party can't sue for themselves. They're a baby. They're unborn. They're the ones that were murdered. You have to protect people from murder, Steve.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, it's a blastocyst. Yes, thank you. Blastocyst. A blastopore is something on the embryo itself, the pit, but they're called a blastocyst. Couldn't think of the name. I got to get back on my biology shit, man. It's been so long. But, anyways, so they're still an embryo though. But okay, so this allows third parties that are unrelated, that are not injured parties, to basically find a way to make $10,000 from somebody who had an abortion, right? Regardless of the reasons, right? They don't even take into account anything about the reasons why they had abortion. It's just they sue the doctor that performed it.
Yeah, the only caveat that they put in for protection is medical emergency.
Right.
But they didn't specify what the hell that means.
It's very vague.
So they didn't actually say what consisted. So there was a situation in Ireland years and years and years ago when abortion was illegal. And there was a woman who needed abortion or she was going to die. And they were like, we need to perform this abortion. And the government was like, no, you can't. Her life needs to be threatened. And her life wasn't threatened yet. It was going to, but her life wasn't threatened yet. So they had to wait. And by the time that her life was threatened, the abortion wasn't enough to save her and she died.
Yeah, she was
septic. Was like outraged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was septic, and that I know that story, and that was one. That's a medical atrocity. Some of those people should have been criminally held. I mean, we should never, in modern times that we have medieval thinking like that, to me is unimaginable. It should have never happened.
What year is it?
Yeah, what year is this? I mean, this was not that long ago. But the baby died. The baby was dead. But it wasn't a quote medical emergency because it wasn't affecting her yet. The child was still dead. I mean, it was about to become septic, but they had to wait to become septic before they could do anything because of legal reasons. If that doesn't shock the conscience, if that doesn't say, hey, look, we've got some fundamental mistakes in how medical treatment is done, and this wasn't in Ireland, but it has happened in other places, I'm sure, as well, then
it's gonna start happening in Texas.
Yeah, and these are the discussions that people need to have, but unfortunately, they're difficult discussions, and not everybody can have those types of discussions. And by the way, we probably should have a little trigger warning, but whatever. But these types of discussions are very, very emotionally charged. We get that, but they need to be had for that very reason. Right. And so anyways, we do have a lot of callers.
We have a lot of callers. I'm excited.
So I'm going to bring you guys in the order that you appeared. Mr. Sirius, I believe you're first up here.
Am I? There was a caller with a phone number who was here before I got here. They left. Oh, did they?
I don't know if they came back though. I didn't see the number. My apologies.
I'm still showing a 703 number in the live chat or in the.
Yeah, I see. I see. You want to wait, Mr. Sirius?
If they're here, I'll wait.
Right. Caller with the phone number.
I think that's me, Steve.
That is you. Yes. Who's this?
Okay, this is Frank McAvoy from Washington, D.C.
By the way, Frank, remember on Sunday I said that I got very little messages? I only got one message from somebody. Guess who it was from? You.
Me?
Yeah, you're the only email that I had. I didn't get back to it because I have been really busy, but I do read your stuff. You know that. But yeah,
Well, I was the one. I was the one who bailed, who called in and bailed, and just basically because the more I heard about it, the more angry I got. I remember reading a quotation from some nun I thought was very witty. She said, "Most people think life begins at conception but ends at birth."
Oh, spicy.
And the thing is that look, the duty Catholic here is not particularly pro-abortion. But, the thing is that I don't get off on reading reports about 2-year-old kids being starved or beaten to death.
Right.
And I write to guys in prison, and all of them had nightmare childhoods. All of them. And I was talking with one guy in Michigan last week, and I asked him very bluntly, I said, when you were growing up, was there anyone who really gave a damn about you? And he said, no, not really. And there was another guy I write to in Kentucky. When I remember when I got in contact with him, he said he had anger issues. And I said, can you tell me a little bit more about that? What a great counselor I am. And he said, yeah, when I was 6 years old, my father shot and killed my mother, grandmother, and then killed himself.
Jesus.
And I said, a good recovery intervention. I said, in recovery, we have to give up all hopes of having a happy past.
Yeah, you can't change the past. I mean,
and I one time kited an idea that if people, a good interview process would help with any sort of abortion screening. Like what makes you want to have an abortion? Well, our house is too small. We'll get him a bigger house.
Well, I mean, okay.
Or we don't make enough money. We'll get him a better job.
I think there's always, I think there's, personally, and this is just me, and I'm not speaking as a woman because I can never have an abortion, right? Obviously. But I obviously know women that have. But I think the only reason women should have psychological counseling for abortion one way or another is because it is a psychological event. It is traumatic. It is not. It's something that
we should also have psychological counseling for pregnancy.
Sure. Yeah.
Look, I mean, again, the thing is that everyone, Donald Trump peddled this thing to the right wing nut jobs, but I read where he secured eight abortions himself in his lifetime?
Probably. That doesn't surprise me.
And I'm going to say one more thing after I rant myself off here.
No, you're good.
This is off topic, and because I wanted to mention this to you, Steve, before, is that, all those groupies that Kyle had who enabled him over the year did him no favors.
We all agreed upon that, yes.
Yep.
We've been saying that for so long that they were not his friends.
Listen, all they did was treat him the way Texas is treating abortions. Kicked him out. You're not allowed here.
The thing is, though, is that back when the Non Sequitur show came off its wheels, I was the one who was emailing Steve saying, "What's Kyle's addiction status? Has he relapsed?"
Oh, yeah.
And it turns out he had.
He still does.
And the whole idea that it's in the recovery literature that a practicing addict is constitutionally incapable of having a working partnership with another human being. And sir, that is my rant for the day.
Oh, thank you, Frank.
Anyway, I'm getting off of here. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Keep up the good work,
sir. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it, man.
Bye.
Yeah.
That was a great rant.
And I look, and Frank, he wants to contact Kyle, and he wants to try to, work through his, Kyle's addiction and all that stuff. More power to you. Has nothing to do with me. I don't think Kyle's salvageable, and I don't care whether he is or isn't. It's not. I don't care. I mean, seriously,
not your business.
It's not my problem. Okay. He could drink himself to death for all I care. I really don't. And Beauty Rock can quote me on that. I don't care what happens to Kyle after all the things Kyle's done, because I don't think Kyle gives a shit about anybody else but himself. And I have no sympathy for those kind of people. If he wanted help, that's a different story. But he could have gotten help 2 years ago. We all tried to help him. People that were his friends at the time tried to help him, but he listened to shitty people like Unirock and those people who were never his friends, and they
were enabling his problematic behavior.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've all got people in our lives that we've got history with, that as much as we would love to help them, as much as we would love to reach out to them, as much as we would love for them to get better, it becomes nothing we can do about it anymore, and we have to let go. And it turns into it's on them now. And as like, even if like there are people that were friends with Kyle who don't deal with them, that don't deal with him anymore, even if they're not dealing with him in the background, and they can be like more like Unirock, who's like, listen, go get help. And then when you're done, I'll be here when you want to call me. I mean, Unirock's not actually doing that. He's just a shit.
Right.
But that's one of the things that he was saying, right? He was never helping him at all anyway. But if there were people who were trying to reach out to him, who wanted to help him and who gave him those resources and gave him that assistance and that help, and they decided that, hey, listen, it's not on me anymore. However, should they call on me when they are ready, my door may or may not be open. And sometimes that's just a decision you have to make at the time, but we can't be responsible for everybody.
Yeah, and I've never condemned Frank for wanting that. I'm not the kind of person to say, hey, look, don't ever contact Kyle. I'm like, do what the hell you want, man. So people don't know what happens in the background a lot. They really honestly
let him get whatever help.
It's totally fine. If Frank can help him, that's fine. That's a Frank thing, right? But it's not a me thing. Now, somebody had said, Inkboy had said, I think you did care, but not anymore. You're right. No, of course I did care. I considered Kyle a friend at one time. Of course I did. Matter of fact, when he lost his job, I was very sympathetic. That's why when he took the Patreon money, by the way, he told me after the fact, but I still was like, no big deal. I was like, no, man, it's cool. I trust you. You needed it and stuff like that. And I didn't even really think much twice about it, because I was like, when we get some AdSense revenue coming in, then we can go from there. But people may not remember, back in the day for YouTube, when you first got AdSense, it was a real pain in the ass to finally get anything out of it. Sometimes it could take a very long time. It was just a very difficult setup to how to get AdSense. So when he lost his job, it was just about the time we were about monetized. We only had some income coming in from PayPal, a little bit from Patreon, I think at the time, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, because he took the money from Patreon, so we had to have Patreon. But it wasn't a lot of money yet. And so there was a whole bunch of money that was still in AdSense, because I guess we had been monetized for a couple months. I didn't look at the dates, but he was like, I can't get to that AdSense yet. And I totally empathize with that, because there have been people have told me, I didn't go through it, but there have people told me that they had a very difficult time first accessing their AdSense when they first got monetized. So I completely believed him on that. I still believe him on that. I don't think he was lying on that. But he was supposed to pay
it would be fascinating. It would be fascinating, absolutely fascinating, if we got the show back, we're running, we're doing well, and like 5 years from now we get Frank and Kyle on, because Kyle's actually gone to get the help that he needs. That would be fascinating.
I would have to seriously. It would have
to be years from now.
5-7 years from now. I'm a totally different person. I mean, like, people know that I'm moving next week.
That's what I mean. And potentially, it would be fascinating.
I moved 7 years ago, right? I quit my job in 2014, sold my house, and my life completely changed. I mean, obviously I got, on YouTube, and I made a thing with that, and I want to make even more with YouTube. I'm also going to go back to work for a part-time job. I got legal fees. Okay. So I need to go get a part-time job, and I'm looking forward to that. I want to start over again. And when I move, it's going to be a kind of a new thing for me every 7 years. And I've got back into exercising, thanks to Jim Jules, who's out there. She'll call in here in a few, because he has a lot to say about this particular topic. But I'm going to call her my unofficial personal trainer, I guess. Because she's not my official personal trainer, but
she's giving you advice.
She's my incentivizer, yeah. And so people have known I've lost weight. I've been eating healthy. I've been feeling a lot better. I don't want to continue that. So when I move,
anyway, nobody cares about you, Steve.
They don't. It's all about Kyle, right? But anyways, back to Texas.
Who else we got in here?
It's always about Kyle, even when it's not about Kyle, right?
I know, right?
Kyle went to Texas. Okay, so...
He did?
Yeah, he did. Wasn't that where that was Faithless Forum was in Texas, wasn't it?
Faithless Forum, yeah.
Yep. It was.
All right, so we'll get the next caller here. So, Mr. Harris, we're going to put you on for last here because that's okay. So we have somebody in here. Can I say your name in here? The avatar you go by?
Yeah, you wish.
You wished. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you wish.
All right. So you wished.
Yeah,
what would you like to say?
I'm one of Jared's kids, so over from VGW. So
can you turn up your volume a little bit?
Well, I'm wearing earphones, so
I could boost you up a little bit.
You're just a little. You sound a little bit muffled. It's a little hard to hear you.
They're cheesy. They're cheesy cheap earphones. I work private securities and.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So, anyway, what y'all were saying earlier, Shesh, particularly you were saying that no doctor out of the state of Texas wants to perform an abortion because they don't want to get sued. Well, the risk of that is really, really low because of HIPAA laws, the way that HIPAA law works. They don't have to disclose to even the state of Texas whether or not they actually perform the procedure. The only way that they're going to be able to figure out that a woman from Texas went after a heartbeat was detected out of state to get the abortion is to go back through her primary care doctor here in Texas to find out.
No, and that's a good.
Or the Uber driver who took her.
and I totally agree. And that's a great point about HIPAA.
That's the other part of this is that if you facilitate or aid a woman to get out of the state of Texas to have an abortion, you're not going to get sued. You're going to get arrested and charged with I think it's a Class B misdemeanor.
Mm-hmm.
It's either Class B.
Well, you could get the answer is at this point you could get both.
Yeah, well, you could be sued as well if you're enabling that, right? If you're even not the primary doctor that performed it, if you're helping the person get to the doctor, which to me is a witch hunt. I mean, this is just one big witch hunt.
It is a witch hunt, and I disagree with you. Okay, I am anti-abortion personally, but what somebody else does inside the privacy of their home, in the privacy of their medical care, where does that adversely affect me?
Yeah, there's a whole conversation about that's wrapped into this about what you personally believe and what you would personally do versus what rights do people have to make that decision in the first place for themselves.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Shesh, is where, and this is the whole thing, is that it's not exactly where. Let me rephrase this. Okay, this is a continuation of Texas's anti-abortion laws through the last 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And they have progressively gotten worse. They've shut down the majority of rural clinics, and we're talking the poorest populous counties in the state of Texas, all along the Rio Grande Valley area, deep South Texas, right along the Rio Grande River, up through almost into Central Texas. But if that particular clinic did not have a hospital with a practicing physician that could come in to observe and treat the abortions that may go wrong, then they had to close. So you're talking a majority of the majority of women's health clinics in the state of Texas in the poorest areas that really couldn't afford any of this to happen had to already be closed. So you've already inconvenienced these young women, some of them girls. I hate to say that, but we live in 2021. Let's face reality here. So
yeah. There was a tweet by David Silverman that people got super upset about because he said, of course, abortion rights should exist, but, and then he went on to rail about how the liberal government was not protecting freedom of speech, was not protecting racism, hasn't done anything to prevent the slow decline of rights that are there. And because they weren't protecting those rights, they deserved to lose this one now too.
Yeah, that's a whataboutism,
because of the way it makes sense because all of these political things are tied together. Texas has been trying to do this for decades. Texas has been trying to do this for over 10 years.
I agree they're all tied together, but that doesn't mean they deserve it.
And well, what he's saying is not women deserve it. He's saying the liberal government
I understand.
deserve to lose because they are not
fighting for their rights,
doing what they said and told their constituents that they're going to do. Right. And so, yeah, the way he worded it was a little bit weird. People got really mad because of the way he worded it.
Yeah.
But if you actually read what he said, it's like, no, he's right.
Okay. Yeah.
They lost because they deserved to lose because they didn't put in the work they needed to when they needed to do it. So you get into laws like this where it's been slipping, because you wish it's 100% correct. This has been like an ongoing attack over and over and over and over again, and it's been slowly losing ground, slowly giving ground, slowly losing ground. And at what point does it turn into, oh, well, you can't use Plan B anymore? You're not allowed to use Plan B anymore. That's basically an abortion pill.
That's the next step, is that they're going to say, well, by the time that anybody issues Plan B, conception has already occurred. Therefore,
or it could have occurred. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, is that I'm worried where this is going to go, because if my son, and I've got two sons, I've got an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old. If my son accidentally got a girl pregnant, one of my boys accidentally gets a girl pregnant, and she didn't want to keep the baby, and he didn't want to keep the baby, I'm almost 50 years old. I don't need to be raising my grandkids.
Yeah, you've got this situation that it's like, this isn't a thing that's just bad for women. This is a thing that is bad for everybody across the board. This is trash.
Not specific to any sex or gender or anything like that. This is, like you said, affects everybody.
But yeah, it does affect everybody. But
it's women are certainly the target, but it's bad for everybody.
Yeah. But and this is what scares me, is that there's another bill coming up. Okay.
Yep.
And I kind of agree with it because it expands fathers' rights in court, but it expands the father's rights to the uterus. Okay.
And those are two different things.
Which is a whole different topic to discuss, I think, one of these days as well. As far as the paternal factor in decision making when it comes to the birth of a child. A lot of people don't want to have that discussion. It is a discussion
that is a very difficult conversation to have, and it's very emotionally charged. There's a lot of bad blood, like a lot of bad history for everybody involved. So particularly through the court system. So I think the easiest way to have those kinds of conversations is to recognize the women aren't the bad people in the party, the men aren't the bad party in this situation. The court is the problem in these situations.
Yeah, exactly. And the people voting people in. By the way, I'm trying to adjust some volume so I can get the caller to be a little louder, but it's a very difficult procedure because I have only one gain control for him, and every time that she speaks or I speak, it's going to be very loud. So
I use Discord.
Yeah, Discord sucks. Okay, So I agree with you 1,000%. This has been going on for 15, more than that, probably a very long time in Texas. And one of the things I can relate it to, because one of the things that my channel was all about, was anti-young earth creationism, right? Well, where's young earth creationism mostly from? Texas, right? It's real big in Texas, right?
There's a reason why the ACA behaves in the way they do. It's because of where they're from.
Where they're from, and because a lot of people don't take the initiative to vote people in that are against teaching things like creationism in school, right? It starts at the grassroots level. I honestly believe in politics. Grassroots level politics makes a much more difference than, top level, first level stuff. Because if you don't have the right people in the beginning, you're going to get shit people at the end. And so a lot of the people don't take enough initiative to change anything at the grassroots level. I mean, have all of you been to a meeting at least once in your life? I mean, I used to go to city council meetings, and so I like to know what's going on in my city. And when I move, I want to get involved in that as well, because I want to be a part. I want to be part of change, kind of thing, because I think a lot of people, especially in Texas, like Silverman was right on that. If that's the case, that they lost some things because they didn't do what they needed to do from other things that were tangentially related.
The thing is like, how do you not blame your constituents for this kind of passage?
Correct.
Like this passed without like any contention.
Isn't that scary though? I mean, can you imagine if this was like even thought of in San Francisco? It would have been shot down before somebody even said.
The thing
heartbeat.
that scares me about it is when you look at a political map. Mm-hmm. That's what scares me about this, because if this is a line that the Republicans decide they want to draw in the sand, you've got the divisiveness of the Trump being elected. You've got the divisiveness of the 2020 election, and oh my God, the Democrats stole it. You've got the divisiveness going on with masks, shots, and shutdowns, and COVID, and all of that going on. Now you've also got this. So if they decide to take that as the party line to be like, they're not willing to protect you, they're not willing to protect your kids, they're not willing to do this, they want to put masks on your kids, it's not really to protect them, it's to silence them. Now they're going to they're just totally fine with killing babies, yada, yada, yada. And they draw that line. Do not be surprised if you see other Republican states latching onto this as soon as they possibly can, or enforcing it outside of their state. So because Texas made this so that you could sue from outside of Texas, other Republican states, without actually having to pass the bill themselves, will be able to take advantage of Texas's bill.
Which I think there seems to be some legality issues with that. It's got to be. But
I'm
sure
we
they're
don't
going to
know
challenge.
yet.
They're going to start. I mean, they have to challenge that at some point, because I don't think that's been established that they can actually do that.
It's going to the because it's not the state that's doing it. It's the citizens that are doing it. And because they made it about the citizens doing it, nothing's stopping you from suing somebody in another state. Yeah,
it's one of the most. I gotta admit, it's a creative workaround, but it's a dangerous workaround.
It's terrifying, and like the reach that this has is scary, and so it's only a matter, depending on how the Supreme Court takes it, because Texas is right. As bad and as crummy as it is, Texas is correct. This is not an infringement on the Constitution. It's not.
No,
it doesn't attack women's rights.
Yeah, absolutely. But here's the thing. I think if you're one of those people that you turn somebody in for that $10,000, you are a shit person.
Are you though? Hold on, because it might be more than that. Keep in mind the economic status right now and the gaps of economic status. If you're a nurse who's working for garbage wages and you're working 3 jobs and you have 2 kids of your own and you have an opportunity to make $10,000 or your kids starve, are you really that bad of a person for taking that 10 grand?
Yeah, of course. I'm a value pluralist, so I mean there are different reasons, but ethically still, I mean, I would have a problem with that, even though there's consequentialism, and even though there's reasons that have a higher ethical consideration, there's still a problem with it. I mean, that doesn't change the unethical behavior. It just means there's a higher ethical standard to be had.
Well, I mean, the woman still gets to have her abortion, and the person who's out is the rich doctor who may or may not be a douchebag to his coworkers.
You want to add anything else, Miss? You wished?
Well, I was going to say was that there are the monetary incentives to turn people in at this point.
Sure, and that's what they went out of their way to do, right?
The only way that I see the state of Texas being able to physically go and sue a doctor is to first file state charges against him and then or her. And
it's like state charges.
Well, it will be state charges, but you can still extradite on state charges.
Yeah.
You can
the bill specifies that it's not the state doing this.
It's citizens.
It's citizens.
It's the citizens.
It's individuals.
The individual can still go and file a complaint either through their local police department, or they can go up to the DA, to the actual district attorney of their county, and say, this is what I know, can you look into it? And of course, these DAs are looking at it from a monetary standpoint too, because they're getting rewarded out of it.
Yeah, there's a line that this bill walks, and it specifies, like, the reason it specifies and is basically weaponizing citizens against other citizens is because the state's not allowed to interfere. That's constitutional. The state's not allowed to interfere with this. But if they give it and hand it over to the citizens,
when you start weaponizing citizens, though, that's
the citizens, I don't know how much they would be able to actually go to the DA. They would have to go to a private investigator. But keep in mind, this is America.
Or a detective.
And America is, well, a detective, yeah. And America is very, well, it'd be a PI. But because America is very much like, because America is very much capitalist, and because there are going to be people who are opportunistic, do not be surprised if you start seeing PIs or basically companies that pop up that are like, hey, listen, you give us tips, we give you a kickback, and we're the ones who do all the legal work.
A business
for
just
you.
starting, just
a business
to do
that.
Yeah, that's frightful.
The problem is the way that the private investigator laws are written in the state of Texas prevent that. The Texas Occupational Code prevents that. We have to be hired directly by one individual, and I know this because I work in this field.
Well, yeah, because you would have a difference. You would have, if a citizen decides to go through the company would have whatever resources they hired through the company, and then but if one citizen wants to hire a PI, then that one citizen can do that.
Yeah, well, the company, if they go through a PI, through a private investigation firm, and there are private investigation firms, they are limited to civil matters. They cannot.
Well, that would be a civil tort, though, right? I mean,
well, no, it's going to be because it involves criminal charges. There would be criminal charges involved.
Yeah, but the $10,000 is civil tort. If the PIs was just going for that $10,000, they say, look, you bring us the information, we'll sue, we'll get that $10,000, we'll give you $1,000 out of it, or 20%, or whatever it is. They get a kickback like that, because suing as an individual, as a person from experience, suing is not easy. Okay, it's a hassle. But I mean, if you really believe that you have a case, you sue, right?
Well, the thing is they still can't do that because it's the individual hiring the private investigator is the one that has to pay the private investigator. That's why that won't occur.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. And if you notice, what's written in the law is if you win, you're guaranteed your
legal fees, $10,000 court costs,
your legal fees, and $10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not enough for what we put in as PIs. What we would have to put in the many hours, we would not recover enough to make it profitable.
And you might be right on that. I mean, I don't know the monetary and logistics of it, but I mean, I
am right on that because I've seen private investigators, make upwards of $200 a day plus expenditures. Mm-hmm. And you're talking an investigation of this magnitude
would be a lot.
Going through all of that, it would take 6 to 8 months for us to.
That's why I think they're going to end up.
Right?
That's why I think it'll end up being like there'll be firms that open up that specifically do this thing if it's allowed to stand as it is.
If there's money to be made, they'll find a way to do it.
Yeah, but there's not enough money in that for me to open up a firm, and I would be one.
Oh, I don't think it'll be. I don't think it'll be PIs. I don't think it'll be PIs that open up a firm. I think it'll be people who scout out people who were formerly PIs to come and work for them.
Got super chats. Helios 575 $5. Thank you, Helios. He says they already filed an emergency injunction with SCOTUS, and the SCOTUS decided that it's perfectly legal to go into effect. Yeah, I don't think. The only legality issue I'm talking about is that if the woman left the state to get the abortion, how is it covered under Texas law? Now, did SCOTUS address that particular aspect? Because the bill, the act itself, I'm not questioning the legality of it. Again, this was a creative workaround. That's the most frightful thing from it. I don't see a legality issue with the bill itself, right? And that's some of the problems that people are having with it, because it's like, okay, what is the legal ramifications of this? There isn't really anything that I can see about that.
Helios also makes 2 points that I want to add in because he's gone through this quite a bit. There are no criminal charges in the bill, so it would not be a criminal charge.
It's all civil torts, yeah.
And the burden of proof is on the defendant in this law, so you can bring the suit on reasonable belief only. You don't need to do the investigation. It will be the defendant that needs to be able to prove the other way. Yeah, so you don't even have to hire a PI. You just think it happened.
And also, this is Mr. Serious. SCOTUS didn't say it was perfectly illegal. They just said that they weren't going to stop it. They still could squash it later. They just haven't stopped it.
So there's still things that are out there that are undecided yet. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. You wished. Appreciate that. Some insightful
All right.
stuff. Mr. Sirius, you have some stuff to add, apparently, as usual.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes. Of course. Of course. You've noticed this law. I'm very much against this law. Like, shakingly against this law. I hate this. I hate this so much.
It's a crap law. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I would like to have a caller call in and, try to argue for the law. I would like that, but I don't see that happening.
We even had the anti-abortion guy doesn't agree with this law that called in.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people. I mean, so far I haven't found too many that support it, but then again, it was passed, so some people wanted it. But yeah, I think for the most part, like anybody who watched this channel, I don't think there's going to be a lot of my viewers that support this bill. I just can't imagine it. If they do, I'd love to talk to them. I'm sure Chester, even more so, would love to talk to them.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
So.
I'd love to maybe yell at them, but I won't.
But that's the problem. I don't want to have those kinds of discussions because they don't get anywhere, right? I mean, we all can yell. I know. We all have the ability to do that. But on topics like this, I think that a more measured approach is required because they're so visceral and they're so emotionally charged that if you don't approach it from a very analytical point of view, you're never going to get any kind of
we were talking about that. We were talking about that yesterday when we were talking about what we were going to talk about today, and Steve was complaining that there's a lot of emotionally charged and emotional argument when it comes to these kinds of things. And he was trying to express that, hey, listen, it's not a problem that there are emotional arguments. Those are still valid arguments, but like, this is frustrating. And I said, yeah, it's because it's only emotional arguments that are being made. Now it's a problem.
Right. You got to bring more to the table.
You need more than emotion if you want to make legal decisions.
Yes. If I sued just on emotion, I would be stupid. I mean, I sue because I have legal reasons to. But go ahead, Mr. Sirius.
Well, I would want to.
Okay, sorry that I had a huge connection failure. I don't know what it was. Having to start a new stream here. I don't know where it's going. I don't know what it's going. We'll figure it out later. So let me tell people in the old live chat. New stream. It
looks like it just jumped right back in.
Did it go back to the same one?
Yeah, it just went right back in.
Yeah, usually if you go for any a few minutes, it'll put it as a different video. So hopefully
close it off.
Yeah, if not, what it does is just kind of bridges them together. So hopefully, yeah, I had a huge connection failure. I don't know. Things happen. But anyways, we still have the same people in here, so we're just gonna go back to where we were, pretend that didn't happen.
So Mr. Sears was explaining to us about aspirin.
Oh, yes. A right-wing politician back in the day said that back in his day, aspirin was a contraceptive, explaining how all women had to do was keep it between their knees and they wouldn't get pregnant. And I feel like that same kind of mindset was the mindset that was used in this bill. From what I was told, or from what I understand, this bill was passed in a midnight session and written in very few pages, or maybe even on just one page, which is why it's so open-ended and janky and vague.
Somebody had an epiphany moment of they were sitting at a bar drinking and they were just like, how do we get around this law? Guys, I got it. Get me a napkin and a pen. All right, let's go.
Was Nate the lawyer involved in this in any way?
Oh, God.
I know why they did it at midnight, and that's because if they did this in the middle of the day, there's no way they would have been able to leave through all the reporters and stuff that would have been down their throats for the audacity to try to pass something like this. So, yeah, they would have had to done it in midnight out of nowhere. There's no other way they would have been able to do it.
And by the way, am I frozen on the outside? No, I'm not. Okay. I think you're right on that.
It just sounds like that gets into that just sounds like apologetics, as if women are 100% in control about whether or not sex happens 100% of the time, as if there's also not men always just take no as an answer, right?
There's also that one, I don't remember the legislator, but that one guy that said, well, if it's rape, then the body automatically rejects the uterus
knows and shuts that whole thing down, and
I want to.
He called called it a legitimate rape. If it's a legitimate rape, then the body knows. And it's like,
I want to be able to try to think of the most weirdest way to even try to I can't say the word justify because there's no justification. To try to put myself in his mindset, what the fuck he was thinking, I can't.
Just rationalize, like,
nothing.
Where did you come from here?
I cannot think of a single way to rationalize what the fuck he was talking about. If anybody else can, I'd love to hear from him. You know, I'm open-minded. If you think there's a way to actually rationalize what the hell he said, I would like to hear that, but I just don't. It's bizarre. It's
that same lack of understanding of biology is echoed in this bill with the whole 6 weeks stuff.
Oh God. Oh, God. When I was reading through one of the legislation bits that Texas was trying to pass, and they had said 6 months, and I misread it as 6 weeks, and I was like, "How do you don't even know you're pregnant usually by 6 weeks? How do they?" And then I was corrected in the chat to say, "No, that says months," and I was like, "Oh, okay, I take that back. Never mind. 6 months makes a little bit more sense to me." And now they've just moved it to 6 months, so I'm now or 6 weeks. So now I'm going to take my outrage and confusion from that video, and I'm just going to import it right here.
Yeah, because it's 6 weeks on this one. It's not 6 months. It's 6 weeks, isn't it? Yeah.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes.
6 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. And I hear a voice out there. I hear a friendly voice. Can I say hi to Jules, Mr. Harris?
Oh yeah, just
Jules.
Everybody talk. I mean, I can just be in the background. You guys go ahead.
I just want to say hi to Jules. Hi, Jules.
Hi.
Stranger.
Long time no talk.
Stranger. I know. I know you ghosted us for a while, but you came back a little while back, and we were so grateful, and yay.
And I'm sorry, I am a little off. I just got my vaccine.
Hey,
it hasn't kicked in, and I know you did, and I'm proud of you, by the way. But it hasn't
reluctantly.
kicked in. It hasn't kicked in yet. It's the second you got, because I know you got Moderna, right? The second,
I did.
Yeah, the second one is going to probably knock you out for 3 or 4 days. It's not like horrific. Don't like stress about it.
I got Moderna also. It's the first one is like I was a little bit tired. My arm got really sore for a day or two, and then the second shot was like I got like a bit of a fever and I slept for like 2 days.
Yeah, it's like a low grade flu. You might have the chills for a while, but it's nothing.
I don't like that.
Look, I mean, one day the actual flu is 10,000 times worse. It's survivable. Oh, it's not that bad.
The last time I got the flu, I was knocked out on my ass for like a week, and I think it was like the degree of the fever that I had, because I was literally seeing things, and things were like talking to me, and I was like
hallucinating.
Hallucinations.
They were like there was like 2 like spindles like hovering over my room saying, "We're not gonna let you take your medicine." Like I was tripping. So I guess fevers do that to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
they can. My mom will tell you a story about when I was a kid. I had a really, really high fever one time, and I was like, she came into my room and I was yelling about something, and I was standing on the bed, completely unconscious, standing on my bed as a child, yelling about how there were alligators on the floor.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, this was a low grade fever, if anything. I mean, but it's just you feel different. I mean, it's hard to really explain till you go through it. But the first one I didn't notice at all. So, but anyways. What are you going to add to the Texas thing here? Because I know this is kind of a hot topic for you as well.
Yeah, well, I live in Texas. I live in South Texas. I have all my life. I don't understand this bill. Okay, so where I come from, it is not the greatest side of town. If you make it out of there, you've made it. And thankfully I made it out of there. But my mom is still on that side of town, and she's a teacher. She's been a teacher for close to 25 years. And at the same time, she's going to school to get her doctoral degree in education because she wants to make a difference with these kids. She's had pregnant 6th graders. She teaches middle school. So, I don't understand this bill because it's contributing to the people who didn't even have the resources in the first place to get an abortion. And right now we have such a huge issue with our borders. So like the Valley, which is like McAllen, Texas, Mercedes, Texas, closer to Mexico, we're having a big issue with, the borders, and lots of, people from Mexico, people from Haiti. I think they actually just sent out a bunch of people that migrated over here from Haiti this morning. So we are having almost like an overflood of population here. And this is kind of, in my opinion, contributing to it. I think there's another motive behind passing this bill, because it's keeping our populated areas more populated, and it's not helpful to Texas, especially South Texas.
Right.
We have an influx of drug trafficking, child trafficking. I've even had to be cautious of the side of town I live on. Thankfully, I have a couple of friends who are police officers. Scared the crap out of me one time when I was at a gas station with my head in the freezer looking for low-carb monsters.
Buster's better than Rockstar.
Rockstar.
Buster's better than Rockstar. Fight me.
So yeah, and like our economy is not getting any better. Like it's really hard to find, they say on the news, like there's plenty of jobs out there. There's plenty of this. Yeah, there's plenty of bartending jobs. There's plenty of waitress jobs. But to make more than $12 an hour here in South Texas, that's a rare find. So to pass this bill and say, well, if you could afford one, you couldn't get it anyway, because, we're going to find some way to
prevent it as much
take
as
that.
it's forced pregnancy is what this bill ends up, the result of the bill. It's forced pregnancy.
Absolutely.
And so there's another thing too, is that Mexico actually just decriminalized abortions.
Yes.
They're not legal yet, but they just decriminalized it. So you're going to have people from Texas jumping the border to Mexico, because it's a lot harder to sue outside of your country than it is to another state.
Which is scary, because Mexico doesn't have the greatest of medical care, to say the least.
Apparently their medical care is better than Texas.
Well, just because they allow for them doesn't mean they give you good care. I mean, I'm afraid people might die from these abortions in Mexico,
I know.
Hey, listen, don't stigmatize Mexico like that. You don't know.
I know a lot of girls who've gotten their plastic surgery done in Mexico, because literally from me, it's probably about a 5-hour drive. And I know a girl who got her boobs done and her nose done for $5,000. That is not what you pay to even get your boobs done here in Texas. So, and of course they come back botched, but hey, they got it done, right?
Yeah, I watched that show Botched, by the way. I'm at like season 4. And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, and they go over there to pay thousands less for breast augmentation. Like, just spend the money.
Which makes no sense. You don't want to discount boob job. It
makes no sense, because you get over there, you get infections. There's a language barrier for people who are not, like, there's a difference between like Mexico Spanish and like South Texas Spanish. Like, it's Tex-Mex, over in Mexico, it's a different type of Spanish. So there's like a language barrier. There's so many things that you are taking such a huge risk.
Almost every single one that went to Mexico from like Botched, every single one, almost all of them ended up at Semastia. All of them. It's like the most common thing. It's like,
well, and that's what this bill does. It starts limiting access to safe abortions. People are going to have not. It's not like abortions didn't exist. That senator or whoever it was that Mr. Sirius said was saying, hey, like, just close your legs. That's how you get, like, abortions didn't exist. No, they did. They did. Abortions have existed for a very, 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 very long time. Very long time.
What was it with the temple? The temple floorings that you would drink if the woman was adulterous or something like that. This has been around a very long time, because that was supposed to induce an abortion.
Yes, abortions have been around a very long time, and one of the ones we watched over on. What's the over on Claire's channel, we watched a TikTok video of a lady explaining how her great grandmother died from a botched abortion, and it wasn't because she didn't want a kid. It's because her family was in an emergency situation and they couldn't afford another kid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. We're regressing into like the 1700s going on
Texas
in
is
Texas,
going
and
backwards.
it's just like,
Absolutely.
can you not? Like, how embarrassing is it for for Texans to now have to be like, well, I have to go to Mexico for medical care?
Yeah, it's really sad. I can't wrap my head around the purpose of this. Like, if it's for, like how you said earlier, Chesh, like for protecting, for women's rights and, it protecting the fetus, because the fetus can't defend itself.
Right.
Why all of a sudden is Texas being so nice? Our
Doesn't
governor
care about anybody else.
Yeah, our governor has really put us through the ringer since, all of COVID happened, with the lockdowns, with the reopening of businesses 100%.
The electricity issue that happened, all the heating with the winter storm.
I fear this coming winter because that was horrible. I was okay. Thank God I never lost power.
You come stay with me. You come stay with me. Stay with a Canadian. I know how to handle winter. I'll help you.
That was the thing. We didn't know how to handle winter.
Yeah.
Thank God my power never went out. So I never I never froze, but I ran out of food. And me and my dog were here for 2-3 days. We were eating the same thing. Like, whatever I found in the pantry was what we were going to eat, because I could not drive. I have a truck and a car, and I couldn't drive either because the roads were literally with feet of snow, and that's never happened. I think the last time it snowed that bad in San Antonio was 1985, and we just were not prepared for it. People literally froze to death in their homes, like elderly people.
Don't you think that's an infrastructure thing? I mean, that infrastructure is. I mean, it was. They clearly. I mean, it was because they weren't prepared for it. That's the whole thing. Your governor is Abbott.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, again, this goes back to the constituents that vote in these people that are incompetent and that don't focus on the infrastructure. Matter of fact, I've always been big about infrastructure. Even when it goes back to the whole defunding the police, it was about building up the infrastructure. If there are cities out there that don't have that infrastructure, it is the government to blame. There's no question about that at that point.
Yeah, it's about remanaging resources. It's not about necessarily taking all of these resources away. It's just about they're reallocating where things are going, because there are things that are going to places for people that shouldn't have to deal with this. It's better for everybody. This is the same kind of law here. When you impose a law that specifically targets a group of people in such a way, it's bad for everybody, not just that group of people. This is bad for moms. This is bad for dads. This is bad for people who don't want to be moms nor dads. This is bad for doctors. This is bad for nurses. This is bad for Lyft drivers. This is bad for This is bad for pediatricians, because there's like a whole nother level that we haven't gotten to yet. And it's that what happens if this is allowed to stand as it is, and a woman who is pregnant, wants to be pregnant, has a miscarriage, and then says, hey, mom, I need you to sue that doctor because I didn't want to lose my kid, and he just gave me an abortion I didn't want because I followed his advice.
For things like that. Yeah, absolutely. It's so poorly planned out because, again, they don't think of the consequences for some of this stuff. Just like the webpage that they had set up for people to have tips for stuff like that.
The fallout from this bill is terrifying.
I mean, how many times was George Abbott reported for having an abortion? Thousands of times. It broke the page. Which, by the way, I think was the most brilliant form of malicious compliance Texas ever had.
Yeah, that was great. Don't let the internet get a hold of
Why?
This
Because
stuff.
it didn't break any laws. It didn't tie up any kind of police or false reporting.
That's called anybody playing D&D, by the way, who doesn't know how to play a lawful good character. That's how you play a lawful good character.
That was, I mean, and Again, it didn't break any laws. They weren't doing anything wrong. It was malicious compliance. To some degree, obviously, they were, saying that Abbott had an abortion was incorrect. But they're not. When you're doing something like that, to call in for those kind of things, you're not on an obligation to tell the truth. They're not a police organization, right? When you call in a police thing, you better goddamn tell the truth. But when you're calling in to fucking report somebody, they said you could report anybody for any reason, right? I mean,
how absurd is it that they're like, hey, listen, tattletale on your neighbors. Hi, Nazi Germany just called. They want their legislation back, Texas.
We know who would turn in the Jew, the people that call in for that. Most of them was, I'm sure, and they probably thought that they're doing the right thing. And I'm not talking about the ones that called in for Abbott, because that's hilarious. But the ones that actually called in trying to
I think they were doing the right thing, too, to be fair. I think everybody in the situation thinks they're doing the right thing.
Right, but I'm okay with that. I think they were kind of doing the right thing. It's malicious compliance.
This is why you move this conversation away from the emotional argumentation and try to then have... This is why anytime I've had this, because I had a conversation about this back on the GDC channel ages ago. Like a year and a half ago, and I was actually having the abortion conversation with somebody who was taking the pro or the anti-abortion side, and I was like, okay, fine, life begins at conception. I don't care where you want to place that peg. Put it wherever you want. It doesn't matter to me. You can put it at sperm for all I care. The question then becomes a matter of priority. What do you prioritize? Do you prioritize this potential life that may exist and may have a good life? Or do you prioritize the person who's already living a life? And then you have to start adding, well, what circumstances is this under? And as soon as you start saying and having to say, well, what circumstances is this child going to be born into? You cannot legislate it like that anymore, because you can't make that decision on an overall case basis. You have to make it on an individual case basis.
Jules, have you ran across anybody in your area that really is for this bill? I mean, you live down in this area. I mean, you are the heart of this. But have you talked to people that will actually argue with you that they were pro this heartbeat bill? I haven't seen one yet. I mean, they obviously have to exist. But
Daydreamer makes a good point about the Salem witch trial. Yeah. Yup.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. You have, Jules. And how frustrating.
No, I haven't.
Oh, you haven't?
I haven't.
Yeah. So who the hell are these people that keep Abbott in? Again, I'm sorry, but I blame the people that are voting these people in and not voting them out. Get these people out of office. That's the biggest thing. Get them out of the educational system. Get them out of office.
I get the feeling that nobody's actually voting for Abbott. People are voting along party lines or along religious lines. And because that's what's happening, you'll ask somebody and say, hey, did you vote for Abbott? And they'll say no, when they did, but they weren't voting for Abbott. They were voting because of some other reason.
Right. And I think voting along party lines is pretty crappy. I do believe in open elections. I believe that, if you're a Democrat, you have a right to vote for a Republican and vice versa. I don't understand closed elections like that, where you can only vote on party lines. But I mean,
speaking of elections, if you're in Canada, today's election day, so
go vote. Yeah, and look, I mean, I understand that people have parties for a reason, and I understand why we have a two-party system, but it doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything in your party. Look, I was growing up conservative, right, Republican, but I was more the Reagan type Republican, which some people have issues with that as well. But it's completely different from the Trump Republican. They're not the same party by any stretch of the imagination. Well,
that's why I'm kind of suspecting that I would not be surprised that this escalates. And when this escalates, Texas, if the Supreme Court tries to put their foot down and be like, listen, no, Texas, you're not allowed to do this, that Texas goes, fuck you, we're seceding.
Well, they wanted to do before that. Yeah, that would be a good reason. They
wanted to do that anyway. But on top of it, they already have it in their favor. This bill is already passed, and now they can market it, and other Republican states that are very MAGA heavy can market it like the federal government and Biden specifically is infringing on states' rights and trying to tell you that you can't save children.
Well, at least Biden is against it, and that's at least good. I mean, so we don't have.
Well, yeah, but what happens then is it's not only Texas seceding; it's other Republican.
Yeah, and you have another civil war. Okay, great.
Yeah. So what the hell do you do? Where does this go?
The Great MAGA War of 2042.
Let me
for the children.
Let me chime in just real quick. The reason why all this is happening is because of conservative values.
Values.
Like
they're not conservative values. That's a misnomer, though.
Oh no! See, actually,
That's how it's
it
marketed.
is.
not.
It is conservative values. This is exactly in line with conservative.
No, this is what they
values
call it. That term is not an appropriate term for me.
Well, I mean,
No, you're right. That it is conservative values as they describe it, but I hate that term.
It is now.
Yeah, I hate that freaking term.
this is the whole atomic family thing where you have your wife and your
The 1950s
husband
approach.
the 2 kids and stuff, but you can't have abortions to get that. You got to make sure that you have your kids, and when you do, you get married and all that jazz. Like it fit in line with conservative values. But what Chesh fails to realize, which is no fault of hers because she lives in Canada, MAGA it is not popular. Is not as popular in America as it used to be. They just did their big rally for the people who raided the
Capitol, and only like 100 people showed up. Yeah, I saw that.
Not even 100.
It's because they're all on no-fly lists. They can't get there.
They can't travel.
The first time they went there, it was by bus.
Oh,
a lot of buses
Yeah.
went
Yes.
there, but even though that's the case, nobody went the second time. This isn't popular. Even in Texas, this isn't popular. And Texas almost flipped last time. They keep doubling down on this idea that Trump is the way to win. But do you know how many times Trump has caused a politician to win?
Never.
Yeah, but it's the same with the other way though. That because the Democrats also think Trump is the way to win.
Yeah, I think they're starting to realize that Trump is so toxic because he has been a weight around the Republican Party. He's not the savior.
The question I'm more asking though is it too late? Because although the individuals who believed in MAGA are waning, the people they voted in are still there.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think exactly, but that's the question. Is it too late? If this is allowed to stay and sit where it is, at what point do these elections roll over, or is it going to be too late by the time that election rolls over? You're not Texas. As much as the Texas people don't want it, your legislators are already like, that's already through.
Yeah.
Suck it. Oh, you didn't want us to secede? Too bad.
It could have a snowball effect.
Seceding as a thing for Texas would be a hilarious weekend. It wouldn't last long.
Would you move, Jules,
if Texas wanted to secede? Would there be a massive exodus from Texas, or?
Well, it already feels like it. There's been such a divide. I don't know if y'all know our mayor, who's Mayor Ron Nirenberg of Bexar County, actually sued Governor Abbott over the mask mandates. Do y'all remember ever seeing that?
Same kind of thing was happening in Florida, yeah.
Yeah, same thing here. Newsom, who had a recall election here in California for that, because some people didn't like the way he closed the businesses down. Although California has gone way down in their transmission comparative to some of the southern states that are just going off the charts, and Florida, which opened up everything and went off the charts. So
y'all made me really think of how Abbott approaches, I guess, laying down laws and, the rules of Texas. It's almost like he's trying to relinquish responsibility off of him, because they're around the time that we all needed to be wearing masks, he said that it wasn't mandatory. There was no mandatory mask mandate. So it was kind of all of the local businesses, big businesses, small ones, it was up to them to deal with the people who refused to wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like knockdown drag out.
It was chaos. It was anarchy. Yeah, and we have that here. See, here is the businesses had the say too, and yet in my area, almost all the businesses adhere to it. I mean, there was really not an issue. Now, some of them were forced to, like the barbershops and things of that nature. They were mandated, but more the other places, like the food places I went to, they were under mandate. Even after that mandate went off, from what I understand, they still implemented it, but it wasn't until June something where they kind of lifted everything, where they kind of said, oh, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask, but you still do if you're not vaccinated. And again, that was set up, for I think through the individual companies. I mean, it's not a mandate from the state; it's a recommendation, from what I understand at this point. But I could be wrong on that.
Letty in the side chat makes a good point and says, I think it's actually kind of difficult for Texas to fully succeed, or maybe it has to do with how Texas can split up into 7 different states. The thing is I think if this goes that direction, it won't only be the state of Texas seceding. You're going to have Texas working with other states that decide they want to go that direction.
Texas and
if
Alabama,
it goes that
there
far.
you go. You know.
We're already thinking like we're if you look at the political map,
state that can go, because other states, they have their entire like electrical grids and stuff.
Yeah,
tied
I don't think secession is going to be on the
other
table.
places.
Really. It's a far-fetched dream.
I think it's just. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. We had a caller
Texas
coming.
Can't.
Who's this?
This is Helios. I've actually been here for quite a while.
Yeah, I know. I saw. I didn't know who. But it
Hi,
didn't come up
Helios.
So, hey, buddy.
But it's actually illegal for Texas to secede. It's illegal for any state to secede. You can't leave the United States once you join.
Yeah, succession
That makes
has a
no
huge,
sense.
Yeah, succession has a huge amount of constitutional legalities, and that's not the way to go. Obviously, I mean, we're not like the EU where they want to, succeed from the EU and that whole cluster with Brexit and all that, which I will never understand. People try to explain to me.
Are you sure you're not?
I don't understand Brexit. No, I'm pretty sure I don't.
No, I mean, like, are you sure that Texas is not
I think it's so
you really think that, like, with how divided the states are,
Not
it's
for another
really
100
that
years.
far away for people
not
to just,
not
like...
in our lifetime, at least. Not in our lifetime.
Technically, it automatically triggers war.
Yeah. What happened?
I mean, I just think it'd be funny if they just signed off on it and went, okay, United States Army, we're going to need you to go and occupy Texas. Cool,
Be
thanks.
like, see ya.
But that has happened, actually.
Yeah.
States have tried to succeed from the United States, and what happens is the U.S. Army rolls in and takes over until they stop.
There's military action, yeah, and I think that's normally you can't have military action on U.S. soil because of posse comitatus, but I think you're right. If a state tries to succeed, there's an automatic troop movement to that area, isn't there not?
Yeah, essentially, their whole thing is now considered an illegitimate occupying force, and the United States military is sent in to liberate
because
them.
It's a hostile force. Yeah. So that's
can we also keep in mind that we're dealing with like a good number of people who it's America. Since when has America ever actually given a shit half the time about what the laws are in other places?
Well, some Americans care about the law, but they get the law wrong, like the sovereign citizens, right?
They care about the law, but they get it wrong, or they care about rights but don't care about rights, or they care about life but they're not pro-life, or you get people who are like the Constitution is a perfect document, but we really support an amendment, right? Like you get these things where you're going to end up with perfect, like
it's living.
But when the fuck have a good number of these people given a shit about the rules? So if they're going to be like, hey, listen, you're not allowed, it's against the law to secede from America and the Constitution, you really think the people who want to secede are going to give a shit?
They tend to give a shit really quickly once an A1 tank is staring at them saying, hey.
That's why I think it would be more than one state to go. It wouldn't be one singular state.
But that's also why a lot of Texans say, "Oh, I want my guns in case we have to go against the government." And as everybody has pointed out, it's not going to help you. An AK-47 against a tank, you're going to lose. The military is well trained. Civilians with firearms, they can hold off a little while, but they're nowhere near the capability of an actual military force.
Justin asks, if these fringe red states secede the Union, would we call it a confederation again? Because that's a whole nother thing that's still so divisive in America for some reason, is the Confederacy. Like, the Confederacy is still surprisingly popular, which is bizarre.
Anyways,
I don't get
Jules, do you have anything else to add? We're going to be wrapping it up. I got about 6 minutes. I got to start wrapping this up. By the way, Jules is going to come on, I think, maybe with Christy, and we're going to have maybe we're going to Chess. We're going to have a more detailed conversation about this at some point, and also nutrition and dieting, because she's been a diet guru, even when she wasn't around, because she left us and ghosted us.
Okay, I'm back, and I'm better.
Were we abandoned?
We were abandoned. I had abandonment.
No, not
issues.
abandoned. Yeah. It's Jam Truth. The abandoned. Abaddon. No, there was like what did Jam Truth say?
He was like, Truth.
God damn it! It was just funny. Whatever.
So Jules is back. Most people don't even remember who the hell she was, but we're gonna remind people. She's gonna get back on her channel hopefully, and because she has a really good video that only has like 800 views and it should have like 8 million. I don't get it. It's weird.
I will be updating lots of stuff after this Moderna wears off of me. Yeah, I'm currently getting more certifications. I've got 4 more to go.
What time did you get your first shot? It was like hours ago, wasn't it?
It was 11:30 my time.
Yeah, so I mean, you won't notice anything maybe besides the jab until 24 hours later, 8 to 24 hours later, and then even then, the first one is
so
nothing.
I'm gonna feel even loopier after.
The second one is if you have reactions after the first one, the second one's going to be worse. But yeah, most people don't have I think the earliest I've heard was like 4 hours after the shot or something. If you're not having anaphylactic or you're not having an allergic reaction, which happens in the first 15 minutes.
Oh God, don't tell me that.
No, that's in the first 15 minutes or so. So if you're already past that.
No, I made it home fine.
Yeah, you would have
I don't really remember the drive. No, I'm just kidding.
What's your name again?
Spicy.
Where am I? No, maybe it's just because I probably need to eat something. I was so nervous this morning, and I was so nervous.
She was scared to get the shot. We've been talking about that for a while. Jules and I, we do communicate, believe it or not. And I don't know why she was so worried about it. I mean, I do and I don't kind of thing. But I'm glad that you did. I'm really proud of you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it just got to a point where I was getting in arguments with the people closest to me about them like needing me to get the shot, and I'm like, you don't need to control anything I do, but yeah,
it's out of love.
And I get it, we
don't want you to die, okay?
There's a very important thing that people need to do when they're talking about, at least I think it's important, take that for what you will, when they're talking to people about getting the shot and people who are deciding not to get the shot and people who are, because there's 2 very different types of people that are choosing not to get the shot. There's the crazy anti-vaxxers who are just like, you everybody everywhere. And then there's a handful of people who are like, I'm not comfortable with it. I want to be as naturalistic as possible, yada, yada, yada. And they're like, I will self-isolate myself. And they're taking responsibility for that decision versus putting the responsibility on everybody else. And I think that there's just a lot of people who are afraid that if you are choosing not to get the vaccination yourself, that you are one of the people that are like, everybody else needs to take responsibility for my decision. And so they're trying to take responsibility for your decision by persuading you to change your mind.
Well, not only that, like the persuasion, several people around me were very, I know they care about me, but it almost got to a point where it's like, you are not a part of society if you don't get this. And it's like, and then
that's kind of true.
My concern was just, my overall my general health, my overall general health. Like, I mean, my boyfriend is a brain cancer survivor. He lives with an inoperable brain tumor, and he got the vaccine because he had to. He's in the military, and he's been fine. But that wasn't enough to convince me and my body. Like, how is it going to affect me? So there was just a lot that I had to think about, and I just felt like
and you'll be fine.
Along with waiting to see how other people react, and then, then coming to my own decision. Because I didn't want to be angry at anyone for having them make me do it. I wanted to make the decision on my own. So, yeah. but
No, I mean it's okay to have concerns. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like I said, I think that you're gonna have the second shot in 28 days. You'll feel a little down for a couple days, but again, nothing too bad. And then after that, you're not even gonna think twice about it. It's gonna be like whatever. It's gonna be like any other thing you've ever had. I had not only did I have my Moderna shot, I also had a tetanus shot.
oh god,
Yeah, because you're supposed to get a tetanus shot every 10 years. Booster.
I'm not very good at Tetris.
Tetanus.
I think part of the issue is that you are gonna have to isolate yourself from society if you make that kind of decision. And it's not that society's trying to reject you as a human being. It's just that you're dangerous when you make that kind of a decision, and you have to take on that burden if you make that decision. And it's just like I can understand why people would have difficulty making the decision. I think maybe people should have a little bit more patience for some, like understand that there are two different kinds of people, and take the patience with the people who deserve it, and just don't bother with the other group.
What you just sent me? I don't know what that's from.
Ignore it. It's for me later.
Oh, okay. see, her and I we usually know what I usually send her shit, and she'll know exactly what it is, and vice versa. And we're really on the same level on a lot of things. But occasionally she'll she just sent me something. I'm like, I have no idea what the hell this is for. Oh, just ignore it. It's okay.
Don't worry about it.
When it comes to vaccines, I don't know why it's so complicated. It's like, I know it's I mean, I've had 3 shots of
tequila?
the Pfizer, and my 5G is coming in better than ever. But it's like taxes. If people just took everything that was like, oh, it's annoying to me, these things that I have to do to take part in a society, I think I'll just opt out of these things. All these things I find annoying. I'm not going to do taxes anymore, Like, we do other vaccines when we're born. We get other vaccines. We don't do these for our own personal enjoyment or our own personal health. We do these things because we want to take part in a society and live as a society. Then this is just one of those extra things. And everybody just wants to opt out. Like, suddenly we're not in a society anymore. Well, let's just opt out of taxes too. Let's just make taxes optional too. Why not?
Well, I mean, sovereign citizen. You can go that direction if you wanted.
Right?
But I live in Texas. Do I really want to interact with the society outside? I'm just kidding.
No.
That's fair. That's fair. I do hear the barbecue's good though.
And by the way, so let's kind
hell
of wrap it up. I mean, I have a fondness now for Texas because the people there have been absolutely wonderful. I cannot deny that. I mean, they were so. Every time I've been down there recently, when I was a kid or younger, I should say, I was a kid. I was still in my teens. I had to go through Texas and Dallas, Fort Worth many times on many different business trips and other things. So I've been to Dallas many times. Never got to San Antonio. Never even got to Austin, but I would fly in. I didn't really, care for the area too much, but I gotta admit, it has grown on me. And if I get to Texas again, I'd love to go down to San Antonio, and I'd love to go down to Austin and, meet some people. So we have a meet and greet kind of thing. Cause I heard San Antonio loves me. Is that true? Just say yes. You're supposed to say yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
What do I pay you for?
Pura vida.
Yeah. If I pay you to promote, you got to promote, but no. So I'm hoping that Texas pulls their shit together and stops this kind of crap. Even though this is already passed, but I'm hoping there's ways to, get it repealed or get the people out of office and then get new legislation, something to be done. Because between this, the mask, and creationism, Texas, you're going backwards. You're literally going backwards to the 19th century here. Okay, stop it.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see where it goes. And well, I mean, we have to because we're not in Texas. But if you're in Texas, there might be more that you can do for yourself to protect yourself and protect the people around you and protect other people and
move to Canada.
People in the future. Okay, sure, whatever.
I don't want to move to
You can
Canada.
come here.
If you're not in Texas, all your exes live here, and you don't like the state anyway. So
I'm not allowed to go to Texas. Some guy said he
I'm-
would beat me up if I showed up in Texas.
Well, here's the big thing. I'm not a big fan of country music, and I'm not a big fan of cowboy hats. But when I went down there, I didn't see anybody in a cowboy hat. I don't think. It was kind of cool.
we don't wear cowboy hats.
Yeah, it was like I was expecting everybody to be in spurs and boots and cowboy hats. No, none of that.
No.
I don't think I
That's
saw anybody.
Nashville. That's Tennessee, Steve.
Everybody will wear Spurs, like basketball, like
Am I
jerseys
stereotyping
and
Texans?
T-shirts.
No, it just
And
turns out that Steve had it backwards. He thought Texas, but was thinking about Nashville.
Oh
I've
my
been to
God.
Nashville
I mean,
too. I didn't see that many there.
I do have cowboy boots, but I only wear them when I go to like Cowboys or Midnight Rodeo. So
do you do like
Oh,
line
yeah.
dancing?
yeah, it's fun.
No, not me. I can do the Macarena. But
All right, let's get out of here.
let's get out of here. But Jules, we'll set something up with you again because again, we're going to have you come on. We're going to talk about nutrition because I think that's an amazing topic. I really wish Americans would learn more about nutrition in school. You learn something, but the shit they teach you, most of it's fucking wrong. So, as you know, I am still on my diet, and we're going to be discussing the results eventually when I'm at my target weight. So, with that, guys, thanks for watching.
I'll be live later tonight playing Dungeons and Dragons for charity. If you want to come see our Guns, Magic, and Steel campaign, we're about to fight a bathroom of mimics, I think. Also, I've updated some of my Amazon wishlist stuff for Puck. So if you're interested in sending my doggo a treat, you can send doggo a treat.
Puck gets doggo treats. And I don't know what the hell I'm doing this week. I might have a rum and coke night at some point as a kind of a going away. It might be on Friday or Saturday. But then I've got a pack finished. Well, I'm literally packed up. The only thing I haven't packed up is my computer. So I got to pack up my computer, so I won't be able to stream for a couple days. I won't be around. I just have my Nexus. So with that, guys, thanks. Become Patreon to the channel, become a member of the channel, like, subscribe, all that other stuff. And, I'm getting the hell out of here. Later, people.
Here in Canada, go vote. Bye.
Go vote.